Bring the horns in. We going all in.
So they concocted a grand jury with 23 people, all white from Wyoming County. 17 of them had close relatives or associates who either worked at the prison or who were hostages. And so in order to justify shooting and the orgy of brutality, Rockefeller's grand jury created the most massive set of criminal charges in New York State history. I think it's something like 1,400 felony counts before we got done. Over half of them carried life. 42 indictments against 62 brothers, if I remember the numbers correctly. Those indictments came down just before Christmas in 1972, about 15 months after the rebellion. That's when the real another level of work began in earnest, and I was very involved in first of all attending the arraignments in Wyoming County, where the brothers refused to cooperate in any manner and would not walk into the courtroom, had to be carried up the steps, just absolutely denouncing the illegitimacy of these legal proceedings. And then they were placed in the box in Auburn Prison. Auburn is the oldest prison in New York State, the oldest maxi anyway. It's also the location of the first execution in the United States. And the box there is in a part of the prison that's over 100 years old, and just small, cramped, unventilated. But they put at least about 24 of the brothers there, and one of my jobs in the second year was to go visit them in Auburn from Buffalo. So I would drive to Buffalo, see 24 people, 4 at a time, with rotating brothers, which, given the different politics of some of the brothers, created some very interesting juxtapositions, and try to explain to them why more legal work wasn't being done by the legal team, because we were scrambling to recruit lawyers to defend these cases. Because what Rockefeller and his special Attica prosecution was designed to do was to isolate brothers, assign lawyers from Buffalo who would plead them out to lower level felonies, and then everybody would go on and say, look, see, they really did misbehave, and therefore we had to do what we did. And obviously we couldn't let that happen. We had to show that these indictments were actually political, and almost all of them were factually vacant. They had no facts. So we had to defend them, and we didn't have lawyers. And so that's when we actively began to recruit lawyers from, I remember Boston, New York City, Detroit, Washington, Philly, of course Chicago. And we also went to the Guild Convention in Austin, I think like in January of '73, if I remember, and recruited a legal coordinator. I won't talk about him, but we began to defend the indictments. And as a second-year law student, I wrote the discovery motion for those indictments. And so we filed discovery motions, bills of particulars, and individual lawyers like Danny, like Marty Stolar, began to take cases and to fight back against the state. And one of the things I learned in that process is that we really, in order for guild lawyers, people's lawyers, political lawyers to be successful in these kinds of political, legal, actually cultural cases, we have to work our you-know-whats off. We have to do 10 times the legal work that the prosecutors do. And so we turned out a lot of paper.
Bring the horns in. We going all in.